You're this perp back with another video, and I just got out of watching Heretic. This is a brand new psychological horror movie starring Hugh Grant, Sophie Thatcher, and Chloe East. And man, this movie, I'm so glad I avoided all the trailers because going into this blind, I had a blast with this movie. I feel like this is a very interesting psychological horror movie. And let me explain, because you have Sophie Thatcher's character. She is Sister um, Barnes, and Chloe East's character is Sister Paxton. And pretty much they are these Mormon girls that are going around house to house or just around the neighborhood to try to get people to join their thing. You know what I'm saying? And I've gone through this several times just recently. Like, every time I'm at my job, I have these types of people walking up to me like, you want to come to church? Just no, I got my own church, you know what I'm saying, that I go to. But it's interesting that they kind of take that concept and put it into this horror movie where these two characters arrive at the doorstep of Mr. Reed, that's played by Hugh Grant's character, and he seems like a nice old guy, and they're just doing their due diligence, but they probably shouldn't have knocked on his door specifically. Now, I won't go into spoilers, but the conversation that is had within this movie, or the messaging, what it's about, like religious. So we get a lot of religious horror movies this year, but this one I feel like tackles that subject in a really different, um, in a different type of way, where Mr. Reed is a character that really challenges that. And once they kind of have this whole discussion about religion and what do you believe and what don't you believe, and all the different kind of things that are similar or just reiterations of things. It's just such a fascinating thing to kind of think about, that it may or may not be for a specific audience. It might be too much for people. It might go over people's heads, but he pretty much breaks it down pretty well. And that's what's the interesting thing about his character, that he plays these mind games. He's able to just get into your brain, get into your psychosis, and it's very fascinating, using music, using board games. And he gives them a decision between two doors. One of these doors leads to an exit, but the way that he kind of frames it, he doesn't really lie to them. He gives them clues, and they have to pretty much figure it out. Think of it as like an intellectual or a smarter version of a escape room. But is there any escape? It just keeps asking you the question, like, is it door number one or is it door number two? Is there any middle room? And it's just a fascinating movie that's going to keep you on your toes, and it just keeps you invested. And just how detailed and how thought out Hugh Grant's character as Mr. Reed is. He is a master manipulator, but I like that they just kind of have these back and forth conversations about religion. I find to be the most fascinating about this whole entire movie and where it ends up. And shout outs to Chloe East, because she low-key is like a scream queen in here. You know what I'm saying? She has a really great performance in here. You really believe when she's terrified. Same thing with Sophie Thatcher. She's always great in a lot of roles that I see her in, even going back to just Yellow Jackets in general. I think overall, this was a really dope, unique horror movie that definitely is probably going to end up high on my list. I would say it delivered for me. It might be one of those horror movies that might get overhyped for you, and I would say just kind of go in with your own expectations, because I went into this kind of blind. I didn't really follow into any of the hype. I understood that people that got to see this early really enjoyed this movie, and it's just getting really good word of mouth for good reason. I feel like this is a really well made film, very crafty, very creative movie. Some people, it might not be for them. They might not want to think too much. It's definitely one of those, yeah, you're gonna have to use your brain with this movie. But if you get around to checking this movie out, let me know your thoughts. How did you feel about it? Did it live up to your expectations? Or did you go into it blind? Did it exceed your expectations? Let me know everything, your thoughts, your feelings. Till next time, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.